Hello, welcome to another QA-Automan stream. Today we're going to be continuing automating our website, kind of jumping in a few other pieces of either the Kotlin, refactoring, or whatever it may be, whatever comes along. If you have any questions, just ask me. I'm just going to kind of talk through how I do things, and hopefully we kind of learn as we go. So hopefully it'll be some really cool stuff. So back to what we were doing before. I have this name generator test and name page, and we were working with these find bys. And one of the things I noticed that really bothered me is the fact that I was talking about these exclamation points, right? Checking that it's always null, like always checking. And every time I want to talk about it or I want to reference it, I always have to add these, and those are the worst. So one of the things you can do in Kotlin is a thing called lateinit. And what that essentially is doing, I may have talked about this in previous videos, but I'll just go over one more time. The idea of lateinit is saying and giving like a promise to one of your declared variables that this variable, when I call it, will not be null. So this one is a for sure saying there's a possibility this is null. So when you want to call it, you have to make a check that this is null. If you don't, then we don't know if it's going to be null or not. So we don't want to proceed forward, and the compiler will complain at you, right? It gives you this little red squiggly here. Hey, this is bad. You need to fix this. So I'll show you what lateinit is you type in, oops, let's spell it right. Lateinit. You have to establish this before var or val, and you don't need this optional anymore, because what we're saying is that this will not be null come time we set it. So now if you notice, if your IDE is set to say remove these unnecessary non-null assertion exclamation points on non-null receiver of type. So now we can actually just remove all of these exclamation points, because what we are saying is, hey, by the time I call this in this function, this thing will already be set to something. So, and the reason we're okay with that is, we also are trusting testng that this app before class is running first before this test is ran, because this is where we initialize our name generator page as just something that isn't null. And so now cleans up your code 100%, makes it really, really readable. You don't have to worry about all these exclamation points, here, there, everywhere. So what's the problem though? Like we have it for other things as well, like all of our generate buttons here. If you notice, we do that here as well. I mean, again, you can keep it as this optional, or we can remove this and add lateinit. Because we're saying, by the time we call this variable, we have already initialized all of our elements. So again, making that promise. So let's set the rest of them to that, and then we'll just remove all of the nulls. And I'm going to use a replace all just to speed things up there. So now we have lateinit on all of these, and now it's saying, hey, you don't need a reference, you don't need to check if it's null every time. You don't need to do that. Knock it off. You don't need that garbage. So the trade-off here is, it's kind of you don't have to check every time. However, the problem now is you're making an assumption, which we know making assumptions are bad, that by the time we get to this variable, it will not be. It will be set to something. Again, you're trying to you gotta have a pros and cons there. So I guess let's do that to the rest of them. I think we did it here. Yeah, let's do some lateinit around getting rid of these optional nulls, just to clean it up, clean up our code, get rid of this. Because if you have too many of these, it's too much. I don't like it. Now it's more of like an aesthetics thing. There. So there we go. So this was our weather generator. We have our name generator tests. We have our test base. What else were we working with? We created our component base, which all of these use, which is cool. This one's saying it could be private. That's fine. I think we have a lot of, really kind of good stuff. Let's go back to our website and see what other magic things we can be kind of referencing. So, what else? We did the weather. We did this. We're setting the the weather options. What else do we have? Ooh, look at this. This one is all. This is very good looking. What we want to do is try to find a good example of something it's a little more, I'm trying to find like a good example of something, or maybe like a website to use to kind of mess with some things. What does this do? If I have 5, 4, subtract, add. Oh, this is like an adding, subtracting thing. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. Let's just check one of these out. What is this doing? Let's go to inspect. Let's go to our network tab here. What happens when I hit? Yeah, this is a call. Oh, interesting. So this has. Oh, so you give it some data. So you pass in some data down here. Okay, all right. I think we can actually work with this. This would be really cool. So let's create the first thing we got to do. We need page objects. Let's do that right out the gate. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have all of these. Let's go back here. Let's go into our tools and taverns. We're going to create a new page, and this will be the what is this? Coinage calculator page. We'll make it a class, and then we're going to extend our component base, which passes in the driver. Passes in the driver, which we need to specify for our type here that it takes in a driver. So driver, web driver. Nope, web driver. There we go. Okay, so we have that. Again, we have to init. Oh, no, we don't. We don't have to init anything. Well, we don't need to do that anymore. Right? Because the beauty of our component is it does that for us. So we don't have to specify. Oh, what is this complaining about? Inspection, leaking this in constructor options. Interesting. In a non-final class. We'll get back to that in a second. But let's continue on our journey. The coinage calculator, what are some of the things it has? Well, it has these fields. There's like a CP fields, SP fields, EP. Okay, so I guess we'll just go with the top line. I don't know what to really call them, but I guess we'll say CP top field. I'm really bad with names, but we'll just do with what we got. Let's try to inspect this. What do we have? We have an input number, coin input. Oh, this looks very not unique. That's gonna be a problem, but we'll try it. We'll see what we can get from this. If I do a find and we paste this guy in, make this into, yeah, see, it gives us all 10 here. That is not what I want. I want to specify, but it doesn't look like there's any specifications. So what do we do here? We will do the following. We are going to have to use nth child, which is the worst, but that's okay. We will just have to do that. Now, we gotta put the at find by, and we'll do the CSS equals that nth child 1. And this is going to be a web element, and we're going to do the lateinit here. Again, I'm going to just be doing this whole lateinit thing just for this. I'm not saying that this is the right thing to do. You either or, whatever works for your coding style. You know, if you want something that doesn't make like the assumptions that like this will be initialized later, so I'm gonna believe it's gonna be usable when I call it, by all means. Otherwise, you do the optional null, and you know, you just have to make sure that you check it every single time. Again, up to you. I'm just gonna do lateinit. It cleans the code up. I feel like this at find by, you know, I have to initialize these anyways every time. You know, every time we call this coinage calculator and we create one, it's always going to initialize with this page factory. So I'm going to, you know, I'm going to assume it's going to be created. So we'll just do that. We'll just do that. So let's just verify that this is going to work. And we put the nth child 1, which is saying, you know, of all of these, I want to get the first one. However, okay. So what is it doing? Why is it still showing 10? Well, I'm saying give me the nth child, the first nth child, the first one of anything that is the of these classes. Well, this input is always going to be the first one of all of these TD tags, all of them. So what we have to do is, what is this? This is this row and then TR. Oh boy. Oh boy. So there's 3 rows. We want the second row. So we want TR. So we're going to type this in. TR nth child 2, because we want the second child of T-body. And then of that, we are looking for the child that is coin-input. That is a child of that. And we want the first one. And now there's... No. Let's remove that. There we go. So, okay. We want the second TR child. And then we want the first TD of this. Then we just want the input from that. So this has to be where the nth child is put. So I put nth child 1 for the coin input. Here's the coin input class. So that's what that is what we need. Now this is going to get really ugly. I would say the person who developed this should go back and kind of, you know, fix that up a little bit, and it probably would make it a lot easier to kind of, you know, find things. But okay, so we got our first one. Let's do the second one. This is top field. We'll just do all of the top fields together. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do the fields together. CP, both CPs. So we'll just call this one the bottom field. Now, how do we get the bottom field? We want the third. We want the third child here. And then we always want the first child here. And so, boom. Let's copy this. Boom. Is this it? Yeah, it is. Easy. Easy. Sort of. Actually, this was kind of a hard one. This one was not as simple as I wanted it to be. Okay, so we got the CP. Let's copy these. Again, this is SP, and we want the second child here. Just check our work. Always check our work. This should be the... Yep, that's the one. We want this guy here, the second one here. This should be the bottom one of that SP column. And it is. So I'm just going to, you know, again, you should always check your work. You never know. I feel pretty confident about these here. What were the other ones? EP. Okay. Let's check our work one more time. Right? It's all this tedious stuff, but you know, we got to do it. Because if you don't, I mean, you can mess something up. And then you go and you compile and you run your tests, and yeah, you're like, why didn't I just check? All right. Yep, bottom one. All right, now let's do GP. And this one should be 4. And last one is two P's. All right, 2 P's. Here we go. And this one should be 5. Let's just double check the 5th one here. Copy this. Yep, the top one, and let's take the bottom one just to double check. Yep, the bottom one. Okay, so we got all of our whatever fields here. Now we need to get our add and subtract button. So let's inspect those. Button small, button default, add. But again, another really generic setup. That's okay. We want these situations because this is how we learn to be able to pull CSS selectors from the most mundane of tags, right? Or so let's see what this is giving us here. So we get 2 of them, except for we want nth child 1. All right, so nth child 1. We want our add button, and this is a web element, and it's actually a lateinit var at find by CSS equals boom. We're gonna copy this because we're gonna do the subtract button, and the only difference is this guy's a 2. So let's just check the subtract button, make sure it is in fact 2. Yep. So we got all of our things. Missing one little piece of information, and that is this guy down here. There's this text. Looks like there's a bunch of spans and CP span, and there's like values that appear here. So we're gonna have to pull these as well, and the reason why is because the test cases we're gonna be pulling from. We're gonna be doing stuff, and then we're gonna expecting values, and the values are always gonna be the same. So we want to check those values. So you know what? Let's pull this div here. What does this give us? Let's see. Let's check this out. Let's collapse everything. Who controls this div? You are under the form, which is under this coin table, and then there's this div here. Let's copy the copy the selector. What kind of output does this give us? Wow, look at this. This is bad. Oh, this is horrible. Form, and then there's this coin table. So this, from this div. So from coin table, because we want a unique identifier if we can. So this coin table is pretty unique, and obviously, if you saw, it gives me a 1 of 1 right here. So this is working. So I'm gonna pull this. This one works for me, and then this is the at find by, and this was the what kind of text is this? Lateinit var. Result text, I guess we can call it. Result text. Nope. Result text is no. We have to. How do I QA? Here we go. So. Okay, so we have all of our elements. So I mean that's pretty easy. These are atrocious. Oh my god, I can't even look at them. They are not the best. Yeah, I mean, look, the classes are being reused here. Yeah, but it's fine. You will run into these problems. These are good problems to have. So, what do? We have our coinage page. Now we want to have let's create our new Kotlin class. And we'll call this the coinage calculator tests. Okay. We extend our test base. What is it complaining about? Yeah, what is it complaining about? It has to be initialized here. What? Oh. For those who know what they're doing, you need to add that there. All right, so what's our first test? Our first test is going to be an add test. So we have this, and the idea based on this is it looks like if I were to add SP, if I have one of these and one of these and I add, is it working? Oh, it generates 2 SP, which makes sense. If I add one of each, then this should be 1, 1, 1, 1, and then this should be 2. If this was 4, and we add this should turn into 5. Okay, so it's pretty much just a calculator, right? So we want to create some tests to make sure, hey, like these fields work. You can put text in them, and it can output something. So low hanging fruit here, right? We just put 1 in all of these, right? These should be interesting. This 1, this is 2, this is 2, this is complicated. Okay, so one of the things I know is that when you add 2 EP equals 1 GP. Hence why this turned to 3 and this into 0. That's okay. We will just use this as our example. That putting all 1s should result into this. Let's do that. Like, let's make that our thing, because that we know that that text made it in here and it equals this. That's perfect. So let's do that. Function test adding function. Test adding function. Yeah. Or adding function test. I don't know. However you want to do it. I don't think there's like a way, but whatever, maybe. But we want to create this lateinit var private lateinit var. What is this? This is the coinage calculator page. Oh, look at that. This is one thing that's cool about IntelliJ. Look how the whole thing got created there. This is a test, so we need to specify accordingly. This one is before class, so we're going to init page objects. There we go. Before class. Okay, so we have our before class. What are we going to do? This guy is going to be equaling coinage calculator page with the driver, and we have to specify that it's not null. So we got our coinage calculator page ready to rock and roll. Let's do it. So what's the first thing we do? Well, we need to go to the page. How do we get there? We have this. This is the endpoint that we want to go to. So let's get that page going. Coinage. What did we do here? We just... Yeah. Okay. Let's do page URL. The page URL equals... There we go. That is good. We got the page URL. We want to... What do we want to do here? We want to go there. Okay, so let's go back to our test. Where's our test? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to split this. Just so I have a place to go and work on and see things. Where are you? Component, we don't care about that. 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 Don't care about that. Coinage calculator, that's the one we care about. Okay. I care about splitting this up. There we go. So, by the way, in IntelliJ, right click, split vertically. When you split this vertically, it will create both can exist. And so you just close the one you don't want. So that's kind of what I did. So here we are. So these are our everything. So the first things first, what do we want to do? We want to go there. So driver.get. What are we getting? We're getting the coinage calculator page URL. That's where we want to go. So we get there. What do we want to do? The first thing we want to do is submit text in all of those fields. So This is going to take a lot of, so coinage dot cp top field dot send keys, and we're going to send a 1. Has to be in string form. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just gonna be 1s across the board. Val input value will be 1. And the reason we're gonna do this is because I know I'm putting 1s in every single one of these, so this will be just so much easier. Because if I want to try 2s, I can do that. So that's so we're gonna have to copy this cp bottom field. Oh, it's yep. And you know what? Let's just make sure that this works at this point of time. Like before we just move forward, let's just check that this works, because I have no idea if this works or not. And I'm going to put 10 seconds here just to make sure. So what's going to happen is it's going to start the page, initialize all the values, start the testing, go there, send keys, put 1 in each of those, and then we're going to hopefully see the results. So here we go. All right, it's going to boot up. It's compiling. It's doing its magic. Here we go. Let's go directly to that page. So if I scale this out here a little bit, 1 and 1. So it worked. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy, right? So I feel comfortable moving forward. So we're just going to continue moving forward. CP. Now it's SP top. This is SP bottom. What's the next one? The next one was EP. Let's do that again. This one is GP. One more time. And then this is double P. Here we go. I'll just say it's PP. Like that's it. Yeah, top bottom. Yeah, let's just get that out of the way. So it's gonna add 1 to all of these things, right? And then what's the last thing we want to do? We want to the add button. Click. Then we have to at the bottom here what are we doing? We're gonna verify the text is, I don't know, is something. What's the text? Verify the text is correct, or the values in text are correct. So this is what we want to do. And I don't know how to, like, because this thing, if I look at this is all split up in spans and all this stuff. One of the things in Selenium, if you call the div and you say, give me the text, it will incorporate everything that's inside the span, everything that's inside like breakpoints, all of that stuff. So it puts it all together. And I want to see what that looks like before we start, parsing out the whole entire data. So I'm just going to print this out. Print ln coinage calculator dot what's it called? Oh, what did I name this stuff? Result text dot. So I'm going to get the text, not the tag name. I want the text. All right. So we're going to get the text. It's going to print it out. Awesome. We'll see how it goes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. We may have to add a little bit of a wait. So goes, opens up this page. That happened really, really fast. Let's see what, everything was 0. I think it's happening a little fast because if I come over here and I subtract and I add, this seems pretty fast, but I guess this is already cached. So, let's slow it down just a smidget. Now, I talk about not using thread.sleeps, and at this point, we're debugging. We're gonna wait 5 seconds, and I talk about not using these ever. what would I replace this with? I would probably wait for the probably the result to come back. But then if you wait for, I mean, how do you know the result came back? You probably, I guess you're just checking that the text doesn't equal zeros across the board for this test. This one's a really tricky one because you don't have like an element to wait for, because the element is here already. Like right when I land on this page, the element is already here. It just has zeros. So you can either add like wait for these not to be all to not equal this text as a whole. You know, for this particular test, if you have a test that's checking something that's like making sure these are all zeros after doing a bunch of numbers in here, then you're going to have to, you know, change up how things go. So, you know, think about it, you know, you choose your battles. I'm just going to say, wait 5 seconds and go. So also, I noticed this whole thing's in one giant line, which is going to be really useful because in that case, we can take this text, create a function that will just input the values in here for us. I'm just going to do it one more time just to make sure that we get the 22032. Because remember, that's our golden ticket number there. Here it goes. Okay, see that 22032. You know, just again checking the text here, 22032. So perfect. I'm gonna copy this text actually, and let's create that function. Where do we create that function? We do it right in our lovely page object coin calculator page. So this gives us the ability to create this function, and it will say create, or we can say generate result value text. And what we can do is we can pass in value. Okay, so it's two things here. I can make this and we can pass in all these values, and then we can use this as a way to get us the string. Or if you already know what your expected value is, instead of just creating a function, you can just copy this here and just say value expected results. You can just do that. I mean, again, this is probably so much easier. You don't have to overthink it or over-engineer the whole thing. So let's just do this. This is so much simpler. Right? We're just set up test values. Right? What are we doing here? Execute test steps. Right? And then verify, right? The three main components of any QA test, right? It's like 100 more, I know. It's like priority, what's the severity, what's, you know, did we have attachments, it's too funny. So, all right, let's verify the text, right? So we have our text here, actual text, which would be this guy right here. Pull that guy out, and then we have our expected result value. So let's just do our assert. Assert equals the actual text is equal to the expected results, and if something went wrong, values did not match. This values did not match expectation. I mean, I guess that's essentially what it is. And again, if there is a problem, it'll print it out. It'll print out here. So let's run our test now. I believe this should pass. Kicks off. Go into Chrome. Yeah. That's like, oh shoot, I waited the 5 seconds, but that work? It worked. It passed. Huzzah! Look at that. It worked. All right. Here's all of our results. 1100. Perfect. Solid. So, I mean, what are we actually? And I always like to do this too. Like, what is it actually you're testing? How do you prove that everything worked? Right. You know, we know that setting ones across the board made this work, and you can always test your own tests. I mean, you should do something like that to make sure, like if I change this GP, right, to 2, this should fail, right? The fact that I'm not setting ones across the board should fail this test. Because what you don't want to do is when you automate is put something in that will never fail. See, oh, there we go. Expected 22032 actually was 22042. So this is great. And also this is kind of an end-to-end test as well, because, we are making, the API call gets made, it comes back with some information, and then information comes back and it's 0. And then we can kind of dive in what that problem is. So this is kind of like a good test across the board, because this is what this expected values are. And this failed because, we added a 2 here. So, again, you want to make sure you're not creating tests that will kind of come back incorrectly. Like, this one's a pretty easy one, because we are setting keys in every single field there. One of the other tests you can do is, like, if the idea is after you submit, the values are still present. That's probably a test as well, because, when we do add one, when we add one here and we click add, these values don't go away. So how do we know, maybe the values get cleared when they shouldn't? That's one of the things you always want to work with and talk to, the devs or whoever, just say, is that part of the feature? Because that's something we should be checking for. We should be doing just that. So how do we do that? You can actually do this, which you will have to take this guy, and after you've submitted, you have to verify that I want to see, let's see what this does. We're going to print this. You know what? Actually, I'm going to show you something cool. I'm going to show you a really cool thing you can do here. We're going to put a breakpoint in IntelliJ, and we're going to debug. I'm going to show you a really cool feature of the IntelliJ debugger. This is it's amazing. The ability to evaluate functions or variables and things within the debugger is the coolest thing ever. So let's get rid of this here. Hopefully you can see that. Zoom in. I can't zoom in. Fantastic. I was hoping you couldn't. I was really hoping. I was like, you know what? I don't want to be able to zoom in. Let's copy this. And what I'm going to do is, because I'm here at this line, I'm going to click this plus sign and I'm going to paste in that text. I'm going to press enter. And this will evaluate everything for you. It will tell you and evaluate things on the fly. So if I wanted to get the CP bottom field and I wanted to run some this, and I say give me is displayed, it's displayed true. So this is cool. Like, you can evaluate things within your blocks of code and making it really easy to see what kind of values. So I don't have to keep running this over and over again. So this is returning nothing in the text. So that's interesting. What do we want from this? We want to be able to get not just the text, but we want. Oh, this is the other thing. See, notice how it has the drop down and it's has autocomplete as well. Another great feature. So like, what was the thing I was looking for? Or what did I need? We want to get the attribute, and I believe it is value. No, for those, not veil. What are we really? Value. There we go. So, get attribute is a Selenium web element. This guy right here, this web element, has a get attribute, and those will pull attributes from these. Here, I'll show you. Go to inspect. It will pull values, attributes. These attributes are the ones in orange of a tag. So type is an attribute, class is an attribute, and then value. Value is one of those attributes, and it's one. So this is good. That's the thing we want. So we're gonna end this. Stop it. Blow it up. Goodbye. Don't need you. And we want to get attribute value, and that this value we have to assert equals 1. So we're going to actually have this chain of ton of asserts here, and we're going to make sure that it has 1. Now, again, you probably, do you need to check them all? Probably not. But this is automation. You can check all the things, and you can run this 100 times and never have to worry about it, and it will check them all the time. So if for some reason there's some goofy bug that you hit add and then this goes away, we'll catch it, right? You spend a little bit of time, a little bit of writing, so a few characters on the screen, and you're checking these things forever. There is this notion of overkill. I get it, but why not? You can run these thousands of times, and that's the beauty of this whole thing. So what are we checking? We're checking that this input value is in fact inside the values after submission. So we're going to put this in, say that the CP top field was cleared, or was not expected value. Sure. It will print it out if it's wrong, right? So we're going to come over here. We'll keep going. We'll add them all in. Top field, bottom field, top field. Oops. I messed up. Top field. Oh, man. Again, you just got to do this once, and that's it. It's the end of you're done. EP top field. Bottom field. Top field, bottom field. How exhilarating is this? This is what you guys tuned in for. You're like, I really would like to see a ton of copy paste, please. Submit field. Submit fields. So what do we have? CP top, CP bottom, SP top, SP bottom, EP top, EP bottom, GP top, GP bottom, PP top, PP bottom. There we go. All right. All right. So we got them all, except for all of these are incorrect. So we have to, type in each of these here, which is not the best, but that's okay. SP, EP, EP. I totally forgot to change these. But that's okay. I mean, this is part of QA. You do some tedious tasks here and there just to get you closer to the thing you want. So you don't have to do it ever again, right? That's the whole point of automation. So this looks very ugly, but it's okay. Why are we putting this thread sleep? Because we need to wait for values to return. And because we're lazy. And because we are lazy. All right, we got that. And then what are we doing here? Make sure the fields do not clear after submission. Hey, how you doing? We're just what are we doing right now? We are doing a test about the idea here is putting a bunch of stuff in fields and then verifying the fact that after you submit, the values are in fact correct here, and that the rest of the fields do not clear. The idea is, if part of the product was to make sure it's not clearing, then we should test that. Right? We can test this once we put the work in. We'll get it tested every single time. That's the beauty of automation, right? So we make sure the fields do not clear after submission. So let's run this bad boy. I mean, let's see what kind of things come up. Again, I think I want to refactor this because this looks atrocious. Let's see, run. Yeah. So what's going to happen? We're going to run this. Boots it up. It's going to go to the page. It's going to give it all ones. 1. We'll hit add. Did we get a pass? Look at that. We got a pass. Added function. Perfect. Beautiful. Mwah. So, but what happened? One of the things I'm noticing is what did this test do? I clicked this function. What is this? All it did was start up a Chrome driver and say you're done. Where's the action, right? So that's one of the things that I really like about creating functions. It's like click this element, right? You have the ability to put in something like click element or whatever, and then you can say println clicking thing, right? And then every time you click thing, you'll see that it was clicked. So when you go back through the logs of what was I clicking, because when you go back through the Selenium logs, you're just going to see things that all of these really ugly CSS selectors here, all right? And it's not helpful. I don't know what coin input, nth child 1, coin input, form control input, like no one knows what that is. So, when someone says that I've clicked this thing in the logs, that's really unhelpful. So having like English readable text. So actually let's do an example of one just so that we can see like our tests are actually performing. Click add button. So we're going to click the add button. And then we are going to take the driver that we have, and it's going to complain. Why? Because in Kotlin, if you do not specify val in front of your constructor level variables, then it will stay a constructor level and it won't be accessible through your entire class. Adding this val now gives me access for this whole class when I pass in driver. So now when I hit dot, auto completes and says, okay, you can use this driver, please proceed. So what we want to do here is we want to, not driver, we don't want a driver, we want to click add button. That's what we want to do. Add dot click. Sorry, we don't need the driver. So if you don't need it to be constructor level, don't put it. You want to be very specific and precise in your code. When you start doing things like this and things that aren't private and public and you're just kind of coding all willy-nilly, it's not really clear what you're trying to convey to other engineers when you're coding. So that's why it's really good to do that. So, and then after this, we put a thing here that says clicked, add button. Let's put single quotes, add button. So now when we run this, instead of doing this click here, we'll just have this one function, click add button. And again, if you don't want this add button to be shown, you're like, you know what? I don't want people to use this as a add button click. I want people to use this function. Again, being precise about what you want, right? Hitting private. That's the beauty of that, right? So now it's private. So now no one will be using this add button. They'll be using this, and that's what we want to do, right? That's the point. So when we click something, now we'll see things are actually happening in our test. It's one thing because if it failed, right? It'll just say that it failed. Oh, the text wasn't correct. What were the steps it took to get to that point? This is kind of the stepping stones to get you closer to that. So in our logs, right, we clicked add button. So now we have human readable kind of actions that are kind of happening for our tests. Now, the other thing that I don't like, look at this. This is ugly. One thing I would say is if we were doing a test where it's always inputting one value in every single one of these, I would copy this whole thing and paste and put it into the page object of like a verify function, something that looked like something that looked like this. Copy all this, come over here, let's zoom in over here, function, verify fields contain value, and then the value, what are we passing in? We're passing in just a value. This is usually strings, right? Pass that all in, and then I would clean this all up. Now, again, this is who knows? Like maybe we're gonna put in different values for all of these, and that doesn't seem like the best solution. This one's a tricky one here, but for now, this one's pretty good, and we'll just keep it as is. So we got our test. Right, we're sending a bunch of keys for all of our things, and it's doing. So now let's do one more. Just kind of keep it going, and we'll keep it with the. We'll do the add or subtract. Make sure the subtracting works. So let's do that real quick. subtract. So we're going to subtract function test. So one of the things that we're going to notice here is if we want to do that, what do we have to do? We have to submit all these keys. Then we have to click the subtract button. Then we have to take the text, make sure it's equal, and then we have to make sure nothing clears. So you're like, wow, this is literally the same thing twice. So what do we do? What do you do in this situation? You can do two things. The first thing is we can actually just create a function here that allows us to reuse this over and over again. We don't want to write the same code twice, because if you ever have to change something and we need to add more function or more features here, we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a function that's saying run function test. And what do we want to pass in? We need to pass in a function. So we want to pass in what is it? Our test function that we're using. And what type is that? In Kotlin, you can just specify that this is something like this. Oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that. We want to, oh, get out of here. We want this to be for our run function. So what does this mean? This means that we can pass in any function that takes in no arguments, and its return value is unit. It's kind of like the void, I guess, of Kotlin. It's yeah. So there's no like void. Just think of it unit now. Just take that term, replace it. It goes into more detail there, but we don't need to care about that. We need to care about that our subtract function works, and we're not writing double the amount of code and copy pasting this. If you copy paste this and you pasted it in into this here and just change this one thing here, that is bad. Never do that. So what are we going to do instead? We're going to paste it here in our run function test. And instead of that, we're going to submit field. We're going to replace this and run our test function. We're going to invoke. So what this is saying is we're going to take this function and we're going to invoke it, submit fields using test function, using our what is it? Operation, I guess. Operation. Maybe not test function. That's pretty generic. Let's say our coin operation. Probably say that. That seems like a better run. Yeah, run operation test. I think that a coin operation test, because function, that's too generic. We shouldn't be using those kind of word. Operation. More coin operation. I'm renaming this. This is important too, right? If you just start just kind of throwing out the words function everywhere, it's gonna be very confusing when you talk about stuff. So now what do we have? We have this, and the only thing is we can take all this code here, delete it, paste in here, and what do we want to pass in? We want to pass in the add. We want to click the add button. So click add button, and it's complaining because why are you complaining? You found unit. Oh, okay. I guess you don't need to put in the parentheses. You don't need to do this. You can just do this instead. So problem solved. Syntax issue. Difference here. Oh, one thing we have to do is we want to do the same thing with the add button as we did with the subtract button. The subtract button here is clicking. We want to say click subtract button. Say that we clicked subtract button, and we can pass this in to our run coin operation test. And what is it? Coin calculator page, click subtract button, pass. And then what we want to do, remember, is we want to keep this private. The idea is you want to let other people know that, hey, don't call this subtract button or add button to click it. Use these, because I want this function, I want this to be messaged out to the logs to say, hey, I'm doing this thing. I guess we don't need to invoke it either. We can just call it directly. Expression. This function invoke is not found. What? I don't know. That's something's up. This isn't work. This isn't doing what I want it to do. I know it's unused. We want to invoke this. But why is it not letting us do that? Why isn't it letting us do that, chat? What is happening to this? No, it has to be this. Do I have to do this? No. No, you don't have to do that. Huh. I am at a cross. I don't know why this would not work. I've done this a few times. Right. Val? Does it work that way? Oops. Okay. So, changing up the syntax just a bit. So, we are turning this into a lambda that we can just pass in instead. So that, yeah, so just pass this as a lambda instead. So now this can be invoked. Let's run this, and then we're gonna go talk about what the hell just happened. One thing to note though, we're gonna keep this in this test, we're gonna keep it private, and then we'll do some refactoring in a second. And we're gonna talk about exactly what the hell are we doing. So let's run all the tests. Run all tests, please. So it's gonna hit this thing. We're gonna scale that out just a smidget. So we click the add. We're gonna check the text. Doing subtract. Oh, what's the problem here? Why is it gonna fail? Because our test data is still in our our run coin operations. This is this setup test value. This is specific to the test, not specific to this function. So we need to remove this out and put this in here, and then have that as our input value, which will be string. Then we also need to take our expected results, which is also a string. And just for legibility, we'll put these into something like this. There. So now we put our input, we put our expected results, and we got, again, if you're somebody who wants to be clean and you want to just put that in here, feel free to do that. You can do that too. You don't need to do any of this. You can do it this way. It's more legible. Or even if you want to take it even a step further, you can just say input value equals and expected value equals, and the coin operation equals, and you can specify it this way so that you know exactly what's going on here. You can do that too. It's all up to you guys. These are just tools for you to use, and everyone has their own way of coding. It's not one way is better than the other. And as for my own preference, I will sometimes put in those values, but at least with the IDE, it will input it for you. So 9 times out of 10, all of you are using the same IDE when you're using it cross different engineers looking at the same code. So yeah. So our thing here is, what is the thing we want to test for subtracting? So what we want to do is we probably want to put 2 in all of these. 2, 2, 2, and put 1, 1, 1, and then it should subtract it, and it should equal 1 across the board. Again, I'm only using this as, I wouldn't use this as like, oh, yep, it's working, because just because the website's saying it's working doesn't mean it's actually working, right? The idea here is you would have some kind of spec or something that would tell you that, yes, if you put 2s in here, or how it works is, yeah, put 2s in here and you put 1s in here, you should get 1, 1, 1, 1. That's how it's supposed to work. Not so you would have something else as your kind of target to match against the website. I'm just using the website just because it's easier, and I know better that it's that. So or actually no, we want, let's put 2 2 2 2. What does that give us? Zeros. How? That's a bad test though. How do we know nothing changed? Because when you jump to this page, there are already zeros. So what we want is yeah. So challenge here is, if I put this input value as 2, my expected results would be all zeros, right? My problem here is I don't want all input values to be 2. I only want the tops to be 2 or the bottoms to be something different. And that goes against our entire kind of run coin operation test. And that's okay. You think one thing, you start doing something, you're going to run to another problem, and you just refactor quickly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to copy this. And what we want to do is run coin operation test. What this will do is this will run coin operation test. This will not run. This will submit form and check fields. So that's kind of what we'll do. We'll say submit form and check fields instead, and then we're going to cut this guy out of this whole thing here and put that on top. So, and we don't need this input field anymore. Oh yeah, we do need this input value. Oh shoot, this is going downhill, guys. It's going downhill. I don't think we could reuse this code because we want different values and different things. So that is not good. What do we do here? We do the following. We will, how do we do this? All right. Let's do this. Let's do this for now. We'll come back to, I'll rethink how to refactor this whole thing, but for now, we're just going to copy this whole thing here, and we're going to put it back here. There's a way. I just don't know what it is offhand, and I don't want to sit here and just kind of think about it. There's a way, and I will get to it. So we'll put these back in. We'll put these back in as functions. We don't need to keep them as lambdas and things that we need to pass in. We'll just keep them as functions. Keep it simple. We were trying to get really complicated over here, which, I mean, I like complicated because in the end of the day, it makes our lives simpler later. But I'm gonna take a step back. We'll put them back as functions. We want to call this coin calculator page dot add. Click add button. Oh yeah, we need our expected results. So if I go back to local history, what was my local history from the past? This guy. Oh, so you know what I'm doing right here is if you right click on your function and you go down to local history and you click show history, you can see from the past things that you've ran and then where your code was at that point in time. And because I was trying to figure out what my input expected results were and try to get that code block back, it was really easy to do that. Really useful for like, oh, what did I do in the before? But it only stores so much data. So you only have maybe like if it's 2 weeks later, you probably lost it. So so here we go. We kind of have this. We're gonna have to copy paste, and again, until I can figure out another solution, it's copy pasta for the time being. So here we go. What's happening? Why are you not copying? There we go. Copy. I do not like this, but it's fine. I will come back. I will have a solution. I assure you. I hate sloppy code like this, but it is what it is. So our input value, input top, cap blocks is on. Top value is going to be 2, and then our bottom value is going to be 1, right? And what do we expect? We expect 1s across the board. And input value for the top fields are as followed. I'm looking at the tops here. Top, top, top. And then our bottom, 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 bottom. All right, and let's do the same thing. Bottom, 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 and top, 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 top. Okay, so what's the difference? We want, click subtract button. Okay, we wait the 5 seconds, check or store the results, check them. Values did not match values did not match expectation when subtracting. Expectation when adding. A little extra information there. Let's run all of our tests. I'm feeling green check marks across the board. I don't know about you guys, but let's see. All right, so checks 1 across the board, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, add, and then subtract 2, 2, 2, and then look at that 1 at the bottom there. I don't know if you can see that, but it worked. And what did we do? We clicked the add button. And what do we do here? We click the subtract button. So there, we did some stuff. Later down the line, you can add some more printing logic here, but I mean, the fact is that it's working. One thing, if you notice, here, I want to show you something. If I rerun these, you notice when the driver pops up, it's this kind of default size, right? And I want it to look like this, right? This is the size that I'm like, most of our users are at this kind of resolution. So let's make that happen. Every time we create our driver. So how do we do that? Well, where are we creating our driver? Right here. And what we want to do is we want to driver dot manage dot window dot size. We can go full screen. We probably just want full screen, right? There's ways you can set sizes and set dimensions and stuff, but most people are kind of browsing at full screen anyways. The only reason you wouldn't do that would be if, for some reason you're like, well, we want to run it at this particular resolution because, it looks different and we want to make sure it works the same or whatever. So, but now we can run this at full size. So if we run driver manage window full screen, it should blow this thing up. There. Whoa, hey, okay, we get it. You're full screen. There we go. And there we go. And it closed. Oh, sweet. Click add button. Click subtract button. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. That is okay. I like where that was going. So I think I'm gonna actually call the stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. We had a lot of people coming in and out, but I really appreciate what coming in. We learned a lot. Just to recap, we learned a lot about late inits. We learned about how that affects our writing our code. The fact that we don't need to specify checking nulls. Talked about kind of why we set things private, why we create functions for clicking and putting log statements in. We kind of talked about constructor level things. Kind of talked about why we write the tests we do. There's a ton of different types of tests that are out there and why we do what we do. And I will say there's even a better solution for this test. Because again, if you hit this add button, what's happening is you're actually getting network calls here with response data, right? Which is being displayed here. So in my next stream, I'm going to actually talk about how we can make calls to APIs and then how we're going to do checks against the website. So I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys have, any questions or anything, please comment down below. Please subscribe, hit a notification bell so you know when I'm streaming, so I can really help you guys with the whole QA automation thing. So until then, guys, keep on automating, and I'll see you online.